You know, scientific knowledge isn't built in a vacuum. It's really more like a huge, ongoing conversation that stretches across decades. Every new discovery is basically standing on the shoulders of all the work that came before it. And each research paper is a link in that chain, right? Citing older studies to build a new argument. But what happens if, somewhere along the way, the message gets scrambled?
This quote just nails it. Researchers have pointed out that as information gets cited and then recited, it can get twisted. Yeah, just like in the game of broken telephone. A tiny misunderstanding in one paper gets repeated, maybe even amplified, until it becomes this accepted fact that's actually way off from the original discovery.
And this is where it gets kind of crazy. Some studies suggest that up to 80% of authors might not actually read the full text of the papers they're citing. I mean, think about it. They're under huge pressure. So they might just rely on the abstract or even how another paper described the findings. And that right there is the first whisper in the broken telephone game.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this problem, we need to be clear about two different kinds of mistakes. They sound similar, but believe me, their impact is totally different. Let's break down citation errors versus quotation errors.
Think of it this way. A citation error? That's like writing the wrong address on an envelope. It's a technical slip-up. You know, it makes it hard to find the original source. It's annoying, for sure, but you can fix it. A quotation error, though, that's getting the message inside the letter completely wrong. It misrepresents what the original research actually found. And that is way, way more dangerous because it spreads actual misinformation.
So why do these errors even happen? It's hardly ever because of some kind of master plan or fraud. Nope. More often, it's about the human factor. It's about the systemic pressures that even the most dedicated, well-meaning researchers are up against.
The reasons are really a mix of real-world pressures and, mental shortcuts. I mean, imagine you're a researcher. You're on a tight deadline. Checking every single source from top to bottom is just incredibly time-consuming. And what if a super important paper is locked behind a pricey paywall? It's so tempting to just rely on the abstract, right? Or maybe there's an unconscious bias at play, where we might accidentally twist a finding just a little bit to make it fit our own argument better. None of this is malicious, but every little shortcut adds another layer of distortion.
And this isn't just some theory, by the way. A recent study put this whole issue under a microscope, giving us some hard data on just how often the message gets messed up before a paper even sees the light of day.
So get this, in 2024, the Global Andrology Forum, we'll call them GAF, did something pretty remarkable. They ran an internal audit. They took 12 medical manuscripts written by their own members and just hunted for quotation errors before any of these papers were sent off to journals.
And what they found was pretty significant. The median error rate for quotations was 10.3%. Let that sink in. That means, in a typical paper they looked at, more than 1 out of every 10 citations was misrepresenting the source in some way. These weren't just typos. These were errors in the actual meaning. Now, this breakdown is fascinating. The most common error, over half of them at 55%, was something called factual inaccuracy. This one is subtle, but so important. It's when you cite a paper that's on the right topic, but it doesn't actually contain the specific fact or number you're claiming it does. The others included factual mistakes, so just getting a detail wrong, and source-type errors, like citing a review article as if it were the original experiment. But that factual inaccuracy, the biggest piece of the pie, is like a near miss that completely undermines the evidence.
So here's the really crucial part. Where do these errors cause the most damage? The study found that the discussion section of a paper was hit the hardest. And that makes sense. That's the part of the paper where the authors interpret their own results and put them in context with all the other research out there. If the citations in that section are wrong, well, the entire conclusion of the paper could be built on a really shaky foundation.
But here's the good news. It's not all doom and gloom. Once you can actually measure a problem like this, you can start to fix it. And the same group that found all these errors also developed a super rigorous process to catch them.
Their solution is just brilliantly systematic. First, all the authors get access to a shared folder that has the full text of every single paper they're citing. Simple enough. Second, the person citing something has to go into the PDF and literally highlight the sentence that backs up their claim. Third, they fill out a verification sheet that connects every single claim to its highlighted source. And then, the final step, and this is the real game changer, senior co-authors have to independently check every last one. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but wow, it's a powerful way to make sure everything's accurate.
So, what does this all boil down to for the rest of us? Well, a few key habits can make all the difference. First, and this is the big one, Always go to the source. Read the full original paper, not just a summary. When you do cite it, try to focus on the hard data, the stuff in the methods and results sections, not just the author's own interpretations. And finally, the best safety net is teamwork. Have a co-author double-check your citations, just like that GAF team did.
Ultimately, this whole thing brings us to a really fundamental question. We rely on science to be accurate, right? It's the foundation for policy, for medicine, for technology, for so much. But that trust can't be blind. And what processes like this show us is that verification isn't about a lack of trust. It's actually about making our shared knowledge stronger, clearer, and a whole lot more reliable for everyone.